We're gearing up for a shootout in San Francisco on Sunday between the Chicago Bears and 49ers that both have offenses clicking right now and defenses that leave a little bit more to be desired. A lot to break down on today's Crossover Thursday Locked On Bears, Locked On 49ers podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into this Crossover Thursday edition of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Bears. I'm Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears, alongside Eric Crocker from Locked On 49ers, ready to preview Sunday's matchup with plenty of playoff implications involved. Really want to thank you for making Locked On Bears or Locked On 49ers your first listen today. Our Crossover Thursday podcasts are presented by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. On the show today, we're going to go through the top storylines for both teams heading into this one, including the 49ers coming off of a exciting primetime matchup last weekend. The Bears getting their biggest win of the season. So both teams feeling good coming into this game, along with the biggest matchups, keys to victories for both teams as well. But Eric, let's start with your San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy looked like he was on fire on Monday Night Football. But now it's going to be a short week for them turning around for the Bears coming into town. I guess how much of that was like the Colts defense being a little bit banged up, and how much of this is like Brock Purdy playing some of his best ball right now?
I think it was a combination of both. I think, we all know that the Indianapolis Colts have their issues on the back end. They were missing guys like Sauce Gardner, missing Travarius Ward, guys that they're really counting on. But aside from that, the thing that I thought Brock did better in this game than maybe any other game, right? There were a few things that really stood out to me. One, just ball location. There are a lot of times where I see Brock Purdy put up some gaudy stats, do very well, throw for touchdowns, and you're seeing guys open. Sometimes he'll extend some plays with his legs and make a throw to a guy open. In this game, I felt like time and time again, more than any time I've ever seen, it was about his pinpoint precision and accuracy and the location of the ball, throwing guys open, throwing away from defenders, giving his guys opportunities. And for that reason, I think that was probably the best I've ever seen him. And keeping outside of the one, he threw one ball a little high, went off of Kendrick Bourne's hands, ended up getting intercepted. Outside of that, he kept the ball out of harm's way. And there are times where he doesn't throw an interception at all, but maybe he put the ball in harm's way 3-4 times, those turnover-worthy type of throws, and it just doesn't bite him in the butt. Then we've seen games where it does bite him in the butt, and he throws a bunch of interceptions. But in this game, I thought he was terrific. And again, I know the opponent's secondary, wounded, not good, one of the worst in the NFL. But I thought Brock Purdy played really some of his best football I've ever seen.
See, and that's going to be interesting because you talk about like getting away with those turnover-worthy throws, and that's really what this Bears defense has lived and died on, that they aren't always the best at getting off the field in terms of like making the big stop on third down or whatever, but like when they can have one of those passes that's just in harm's way, they do a pretty good job of not squandering those opportunities. Like against the Green Bay Packers in their win on Saturday, the Bears did not force a single Packers punt. They did not punt. Every drive was field goal, turnover. There were a couple turnover on downs that I guess are equivalent to a punt, but the Bears have had multiple games this season where they only allow one punt because they're not stopping opposing offenses in the traditional ways. It's quarterback or running back gives them an opportunity to generate the turnover to get the stop, or the other team is getting points. And certainly we saw the 49ers put up almost 50 on the Colts last week. So I think the Bears defense is kind of bracing for the same kind of thing, that these two teams are going to have to go back and forth in a shootout type fashion. And as a result, I think Chicago is going to want to try and slow it down a little bit and say, hey, let's run the ball. Let's control the clock. Let's play more of a line of scrimmage, time of possession type of game. I'm curious from your perspective. I know the 49ers have been running the ball better the last couple of weeks, but it was a struggle for a while there. I know McCaffrey was in and out with injury. I guess if the Bears can slow this game down a little bit, how do you think the 49ers can match that, kind of blow for blow?
Well, one thing helps with the team, like the Bears who are taking the ball away. You talked about, but I feel like you're being a little modest. The Bears are number one in the NFL right now in takeaways, and their turnover margin is through the roof, where the 49ers are negative. They're not turning the ball over as taking the ball away as much, not getting sacks, dead last in the NFL and getting sacks. So if there's a way that the Bears can kind of work to control it. It is taking the ball away, taking advantage of opportunities that are given to do so, and then being able to run the ball. And I think Swift running the ball well right now. 49ers, like you said, it was better last game for sure. And that was against a very stout run defense from the Colts. So it was really good to see that while getting DeForest Buckner back. And it did not matter. Christian McCaffrey ran very well. That hadn't been the case most of this season. For a majority of these games, we're seeing Christian McCaffrey touch the ball a lot. His volume is extremely high, whether it's rushing attempts or catching the ball. He's in the league. But the averages on both his receptions and his rushing is way down. And prior to this last game, it was the worst in his career at 3.6 yards per carry. So I'm assuming that went up a little bit because he was over 5 yards per carry in his last game. But consistently for the 49ers, it's been more of a chore trying to run the ball, especially doing something that, Kyle Shanahan wants to. This is a guy that has made his identity off of running, being very good with his run game concepts and the way they're blocking things up, and then throwing passes off of the run game. And I think that really helped Brock Purdy as well in this game. If you go back and watch the Colts, how many play action passes did the 49ers do early in this game? And it was a lot. So the 49ers are definitely they are going to want to get the run game going. And if the Bears can slow that down and put it all on a guy like Brock, then maybe that's where they potentially have an opportunity for turnovers. We are on this side hoping that is not the case.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of similarities between these two teams right now. You mentioned the 49ers being last in sacks. I didn't realize it was that bad, but it is that bad because
not even close. I mean, I think they picked up another couple in this last game. Yeah, Old Man Rivers can't move as well. But prior to that game, I believe the 49ers had 16 sacks on the season. The next closest team was at like 21. So the 49ers were pretty far. So they're still last.
Yeah, I'm seeing right now, 49ers are at 18, and then second place is 25. So like they're way down there. And like Bears fans' number one complaint is lack of pass rush by Chicago, but it's not that bad. I mean, it's not that bad. It's bad, but it's not that bad. I think in part because Dennis Allen has opted to blitz a lot more and just kind of said, screw it, this 4-man rush is not getting home, so I have to blitz a little bit more. I have to be a little bit more aggressive. And it seemed like at times the 49ers were willing to do that against Old Man Rivers, but over the course of the season, they haven't really, like, why hasn't Robert Saleh felt more pressure, like pun intended, felt more pressure to get more pressure in other ways? And is he just kind of sitting back, rushing for and hoping for the best?
Well, that has been a lot of the 49ers defense under Robert Saleh. And really, since Saleh, people forget this a little bit, but Robert Saleh got his first defensive coordinating job with the 49ers. He was a linebacker coach and then like a defensive analyst, prior to that. So he was with Kyle Shanahan in 2017, their first year doing this. And from that point on, they weren't a high blitzing team. They wanted to rush for and play coverage behind it, whether it was the Seattle cover 3 originally, then it kind of morphed into like this cover 4 quarters type defense. And you want to rush for, play coverage, and now you don't have what he had in 2019, right? One of the best years defensively for the 49ers, where you had DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, D Ford, Nick Bosa. That ain't out there. And now you still have Nick Bosa, but he's hurt. So he's not out there. He's missed a majority of this season. So who do you have to pass rush? Oh, well, you drafted Michael Williams, number 11 or number 12 overall in the NFL draft. Well, he tears his ACL. So the 49ers just don't have a pass rusher. They traded for Bryce Huff. He's out there and he helps, but they definitely are lacking in that department. They're banking on guys like Cleveland Farrell, I believe, to bring some pressure, but it's kind of journeyman guys and hoping that they can get some production out of it. And it hasn't quite been there. I think we even saw Ward for Tennessee Titans with a lot of time being able to kind of move around and make some plays. So if there's one place that's hurting, especially if you're facing a mobile quarterback, which the 49ers definitely are this week, it's that pass rush, which is far worse than whatever the Colts are rolling out. The Bears are rolling out there right now.
Yeah, both of these quarterbacks may have some time to sit in the pocket and tear apart opposing defenses. So we'll take a look at what some of those matchups are going to look like on the back end and maybe on the front end too, as they try and find ways to generate a pass rush as we continue our crossover Thursday Locked On Bears, Locked On 49ers podcast. Today's Crossover Thursday podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports. Bowl games, big basketball matchups, and playoff pushes, it's all happening all at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy sports because you just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and a lot of fun. So you could pick more or less on Caleb Williams' passing yards or Christian McCaffrey's rushing yards, George Kittle's receiving yards. However you want to play it, you can even cross over into other sports, basketball and soccer and hockey. If you get your picks right, you can win big. And deposits and withdrawals are quick and easy, which just keeps everything going. So download the PrizePicks app today and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. All right, as we continue our Crossover Thursday, Locked On 49ers, Locked On Bears podcast. Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears alongside Eric Crocker from Locked On 49ers. Thanks for making Locked On Bears and Locked On 49ers your first listen today. Eric, let's get into some of these big matchups. I look at this San Francisco 49ers offense, and obviously so much of that runs through Kittle and McCaffrey. You talk about the high volume of touches that McCaffrey are going to get. And I'm curious, how much of that happens, really attacking vertically in the middle of the field versus those guys using their alignments towards the interior to then create space for them on the outside. Because I think it's two very different matchups for Chicago that's getting healthier at linebacker, but still dealing with some injuries at the cornerback spot.
Well, Kyle Shanahan's whole offense is really centered around putting linebackers in conflict in coverage, right? We talked about the play actions, trying to get guys to kind of step up a step, half a step so he can hit behind them a deep crosser. We watched time and time again last night where you were going play action and then you had the deep end breaking cuts by their outside receivers or slot receivers like Juwan Jennings. So the 49ers definitely want to do that. I think if there's one area they're kind of lacking a little bit more this season than they have in previous years is the run after catch. I think 49ers were prime, really known for the yak bros, right? Having guys like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and what he was as an athlete prior to, the last couple of years. He's kind of lost a step a little bit as he should. He's older now, but they had guys that could catch those end breakers and just take it to the crib and rip off huge chunk yards. They don't quite have that now. And you're seeing guys catch the ball and get tackled, but they're still going to work those areas, just not having the same type of explosive runs after the catch. So if the linebacker situation isn't great with the Bears and you have guys who are either undisciplined or maybe a little too disciplined, that's where Kyle Shanahan wants to work you because he understands, right, what kind of defense you're going to run, what your linebacker is supposed to do, and he's going to work that against them with the things that he wants to do in the passing game. So that's really a lot of the 49ers passing game. They don't have a great drop back passing game, right? They're not this team that's going to just spread out and we're just going to drop back and let it rip. That's not them. They're going to throw a lot of passes out of 21 personnel, 12 personnel, things like that to where they feel like they have some advantages in the passing game while showing some run looks.
Yeah, so the Bears have gotten healthier at linebacker in the last couple of weeks in a spot that was definitely a vulnerability for quite a stretch there. But Tremaine Edmonds just came off an injured reserve for his first game back against Green Bay and still knocking some of the rust off a little bit there. But I think he's close to 100% or whatever you could be at 100% in week 17 of the season now. And same thing with TJ Edwards. He was banged up a bit this season, but he's rounding back into form a little bit. So I think Chicago feels as good as they can about their linebacking core. And yet I do still worry about this as a matchup just because the Bears haven't faced a team that's really been able to attack them in that way with this kind of talent at tight end and running back in particular. I typically go into a game more worried about an opponent is going to be able to beat the Bears deep down the sidelines, right? They're a little bit more vulnerable in that area, but they've been, especially I think because of the improved safety play from Kevin Byard, who's had a really strong, now officially a Pro Bowl season. He's been so good at taking away stuff over the middle of the field and trying to keep everything in front of them that they like to play we'll let you catch it short and try and limit your yards after catch matchup that I think should play well into the Bears' hands. And yet, they have to be able to wrap up and tackle consistently. And that can also be a mixed bag at times for this group.
Yeah. Not so much the explosive yards after catch, but George Kittle is still strong. He's still fighting for extra yards. He's still a guy who can break some tackles and pick up an extra 15 to 20 yards. So if there's anyone that you want to clue in on, it's probably him. But if you're worried about the 49ers taking vertical shots on the outside, I mean, they do that. Probably, if I had to guess, and I'm taking a very educated guess, they're probably last in the NFL at just throwing outside the numbers down the field. They just don't do it. And again, you're talking about backup cornerbacks out there for the Indianapolis Colts, and they still kind of just ran some in-breaking routes and never really attacked them vertically on the outside. So that is something that you won't really see from the San Francisco 49ers.
On the flip side, we're all going to be waiting to see like just how healthy the Chicago Bears wide receivers are going to be, because that limits a lot of what they want to do on the outside. Both Rome Odunze and Luther Burden missed the game against the Green Bay Packers. Rome is dealing with a stress fracture type of situation in his foot that it's not just going to get magically healthy all of a sudden. It's just a matter of like pain tolerance and re-injury risk that they're going to kind of take. It's more like a week at a time as opposed to day to day. So there's sort of an unspoken expectation that they may be just kind of quietly shutting him down for the rest of the regular season and hoping for the playoffs there. But then Luther Burden is a little bit more up in the air. I think there's a higher likelihood that he could return and play in this game. But without both of them last week against the Packers, they were attacking the middle of the field quite a bit. DJ Moore was still able to do some stuff on the outside for them, and they got a couple other backup receivers involved a little bit more here. But I think it's been a fun game to kind of watch how Ben Johnson tries to sort of manufacture offense out there, even when maybe the receivers aren't as talented. And it's a lot of the same kind of stuff of like a bunch of play action, trying to suck the linebackers in. And then they love to hit that deep dig right behind you, right in front of the safety, right behind the linebackers, those in breaking routes. Caleb is really starting to dial in on those a little bit more. He's missing them high earlier in the season, but even when it's undrafted rookie free agent wide receiver Ja'Day Walker caught a couple of them against Green Bay. Like he just knows on time that route's going to be there, ball's going to be on time. And I think we're going to see the Bears and 49ers try to attack each other in some similar ways.
Well, one area that the 49ers really need to kind of lock in on, and this could be one of the keys to victories if we're talking about those yet, or keys to the matchup as well. But keeping Caleb Williams in the pocket, like making him throw from the pocket. He's a dangerous thrower as well, but he's even more dangerous when you start getting him out on the move and him picking up first downs with his legs. And we watched it kind of break the back of Green Bay, or at least put the Bears in a position to potentially win the game. Then he obviously made some throws, but he's a special guy. And, as someone who watched him at Oklahoma, watched a lot of them at USC right here in California, I feel like by each game that passes, he's getting a little bit more comfortable, and he's getting an opportunity to gain the experience of going through all these different situations that he's faced at the NFL level. So to see him kind of rise to the occasion against the Green Bay Packers and watching just how the ball comes out of his hand, I watched Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy makes some good throws, right? And I talked about one of the best games I watched him play against the Colts. The traits or physical talent doesn't jump off the screen the way it does for Caleb Williams. And when you watch him get hot with that type of ability, then play action, drop back and throw a ball 50 yards in the air on the money, drop it in the bucket against tight coverage for a game-winning touchdown. Those are things that kind of scare any defense, especially a defense like the 49ers, who are really struggling against the pass this season.
I will say, like, he is great outside the pocket. He's very, I don't say quick too, but like he throws the ball away a lot when you do get him out of the pocket. Like if you flush him out of there, he's either going to make a brilliant throw or he's just going to throw it away. There's not a lot. He's not taking sacks anymore. He's scrambling a little bit more, but in the last few weeks, we've seen his rate of throwaways skyrocket significantly. So there is a game plan there of like, if you do pressure him and get him out of the pocket, if you can make him like, he threw it away 7 times again, not the Packers game, but between the team before that, I think it was against the Browns. He had 7 throwaways in that game where he's just, I'm out of the pocket, I'm under pressure, I just gotta get rid of it. And sometimes that's been a great strategy for opposing defenses to just kind of get him to just dirt it or just chuck it out of the end zone. And he's had a few intentional groundings you can talk him into as well. So that's definitely going to be part of the game plan for the San Francisco 49ers. We'll get through some of the other keys to victory and really like what a winning performance looks like for each of these two teams as we continue our crossover Thursday Locked On 49ers, Locked On Bears podcast. All right, Eric, as we start to wrap up our crossover Thursday, I know the 49ers, the betting line on FanDuel has shifted a little bit, but the 49ers have been favored by 3 the last I look. I think it was down to 1 at some point. It's hovered around 2 or 3 with them as the home team. Not surprised given 49ers being hot on a 5-game losing or winning streak, and the Bears, as much as the Bears are doing well, like there's still doubts about Chicago of like, oh, well, they took a Hail Mary, or not a Hail Mary, but took a late touchdown against Green Bay to win that game, and they kind of had if, ands, or buts here and there about their success. But do you feel like with where San Francisco is right now, like you're fully confident, like, no, this is a team that is healthy and firing on all cylinders, and like from your perspective should be the better team on Sunday, or where's your biggest levels of concern in there?
Well, I think the 49ers should be better with the experience of playing in these games, right? For Chicago, you got a new coaching staff coming over, you got a young quarterback who hasn't been in these situations at the NFL level, at least consistently, especially late in the year where these games really matter. And the 49ers have been there, done that. Where the 49ers lack is, I mean, they are decimated by injuries on the defensive side of the ball. And then the guys that aren't injured, they are super young. So, it's an interesting game because I don't know from week to week what version of the 49ers I'm going to get. We just talked about the offense going crazy, right? But again, a wounded secondary, 49ers did a great job, an amazing job of really taking advantage of that versus a team that can take the ball away. Maybe you don't move the ball down the field as effortless, and then you still have that same defense out there that's prone to giving up a lot of plays, a lot of yards. I mean, the 49ers made Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans look like a very, very, very competent offense, and they haven't been that for a majority of the season. So those are the things that worry me a little bit. From week to week, I don't know how the defense is going to play to really help the 49ers. And then on the offensive side of the ball, are they going to be able to run the ball? And then are they playing against a team that is going to be able to take advantage of that? Because that's another thing. When you look at some of these teams that the 49ers have played during this 5-game winning streak, the Colts, they just rolling out Old Man Rivers with a wounded secondary. You have the Tennessee Titans, one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Browns, one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Carolina Panthers, who are figuring things out, but they're not great. And then the Arizona Cardinals, one of the worst teams in the NFL. So not the over this 5-game winning streak, but they are doing what they're supposed to do, which is win games. The issue is, well, the Chicago Bears are winning a lot of games as well. And now it's going to be more good on good. What do the 49ers look like in that situation?
It feels to me like we could oversimplify it, but a lot of this is going to boil down to just like, if Brock Purdy doesn't put the ball in harm's way or turn it over, the 49ers should be able to score plenty of points against this Bears defense and be fine. And if he does put the ball in harm's way and turns it over a couple of times, then the Bears should be able to make enough stops and get enough points on their side against the 49ers defense to win this game. And so I guess I'm curious, if we put turnovers aside, it's kind of like, it's obviously like the huge storyline for Chicago. Like, say Brock Purdy doesn't turn the ball over at all. Is there anything else that 49ers should be worried about? Like, presumably, if he doesn't turn the ball over, they're good to go. Or it's like, is the running game enough of a concern there? But like, if he's dialed in and not turning the ball over, like that should be enough for San Francisco in theory, right? Like, is there anything else the Bears should be like holding on to? Like, oh no, they can also win by doing X.
Oh, yeah, special teams. 49ers have been terrific this season on special teams. They've forced turnovers on special teams. They've had terrific returns on special teams. We saw both of those things happen in the Colts game, and I feel like it's happening consistently. The Browns, not a great team. We know that. But the 49ers kicked their butts on special teams, forcing some bad returns. There was a fumble as well on a kickoff return or a punt return. The 49ers are getting big chunk returns. They haven't gotten the touchdown. They've gotten very close, but Sky Moore has been doing a terrific job as of late with his returns. So I think for the Bears, I think one of their keys to victory has to be slow down the 49ers special teams. And it doesn't just stop there. The kicker, Eddie Pinero, who came over to the 49ers after they released their previous kicker, he just missed his first field goal of the season for the 49ers, and that was him attempting a 64-yard kick. He's been money 100% up until that point. So, I mean, the 49ers special teams, a unit that has not been very good for the 49ers, has been excellent this year. And I think that is maybe an underrated aspect to why the 49ers have consistently been in such great positions in a lot of these games.
Bears fans are intimately familiar with San Francisco 49ers kicker Eddie Pinheiro, former Chicago Bears legend, and also just like 49ers kickers in general. There's been this weird do-si-do of like Robbie Gould, Chicago to San Francisco, and then when the 49ers moved on from Jake Moody, the Bears brought him in this season and had him kick for them a couple times, and then of course Pinheiro now a 49er after having been a Chicago Bear. So, and now the whole Cairo Santos thing for Chicago has been a little bit of a roller coaster. So yeah, Bears special teams has giveth and taketh away for sure. There have been times when they give up way too long returns that have killed the Bears. And then last week against the 49ers, against the Packers, the Bears recovered an onside kick and hit some really clutch field goals in windy conditions. So that's been a super big wild card of like, sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's a real problem. And I worry about in a game like this against a playoff caliber team, I mean, literally a playoff team, not just caliber in the 49ers, that like the margin of error for Chicago is going to be so tiny. And then when the Bears had 9 penalties for 105 yards last week, and if you have any kind of like a bunch of penalties and some special teams mistakes, like that can be the difference in a game like this. When even if Brock Purdy gives you a turnover or two, like if you get in your own way to not be able to take advantage of the other team's mistakes, that's the difference between a playoff team advancing and even in the regular season and a playoff team either going home or going down in seeding here with just 2 games left to go in the season. So I think this is going to be a really fun matchup that previews what we can see out of both these teams in the postseason.
Good thing for the 49ers, they're playing this game at home. So
yeah,
hopefully that helps.
At least they're both, they don't have to deal with the weather or the wind in Chicago. That was definitely a big factor last week, and it's why they're planning to be able to play some home games in the postseason as well. But hey, we're going to be here for you after the game, win or lose for either of these teams. We'll be here on Locked On Bears and Locked On 49ers to break it all down for you on our respective podcasts. So make sure you're subscribed, make it Locked On Bears or Locked On 49ers your first listen each and every single day. Hope you're having a happy holidays as these crossover podcasts come to you during the thick of holiday season. Football doesn't stop for anybody, and neither do the Locked On Podcast Network. So for Eric Crocker from Locked On 49ers, I'm Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears, and we will talk to you again soon.